Shalawama, I'm Dr. Yasapa from Zion Law School. Welcome back to Astrotheology. Welcome back to Astrotheology. Again, I am Dr. Yasapa, and I want to say a special welcome again to everyone who's been here with us from the beginning of this video series. It takes a lot of discipline and a lot of effort to continuously come back and to learn. So I want to acknowledge that, show appreciation for it. And then also for those of you who are new, welcome to the video series titled Astrotheology, which is a reading and an explanation of each sentence as needed or each paragraph as needed, and also commentary. From time to time, I talk about something in my life or my experience, but I will not, and I'm not interested in trying to convince you to think one thing or the other. That's not the purpose of this video series. The purpose of the video series is to get the information into your hands and into your head, because this is a very difficult read. This book, The Devil's Pulpit, and don't let the name fool you. There's no spookism, no spiritistic type of stuff like that. This is a book that is demonstrating the use of linguistics and etymology, specifically philology. So the author uses linguistic concepts, principles, and also history, church father writings, and mythological stories. He also takes us into architecture and art to show or to prove his claim or to provide evidence to support his claims. Okay, so there's no spookism. You don't have to be afraid. All right, you don't have to be afraid. All right, so when the author talks about astrotheology, he is not talking about a horoscope. That's not what he's talking about. So don't worry. This is not something that you need to be afraid of. This is not reading a horoscope. This is about the mechanics or the movement of the planets and the stars or the constellations and the sun. All right, that's what it's about. So welcome to the lesson or lecture rather on Freemasonry. This is part 3. This is the lecture on Freemasonry. This is part 3. All right, so we're going to begin on. Let me get to the page, y'all. I made a mistake and took my bookmarker out too soon. We're going to begin on page. Give me 1 second. Yeah, we're going to begin on page, I think 169. Let me look again before give me 1 second. Yeah. We're going to look on page 160. I mean, we're going to start on page 269, rather. Page 269. So let's give it a few minutes, give some people some time to come in, and I need to check to make sure that the stream is working properly. So give me a second. Give me 1 second, all right? By the way, you're looking at our online streaming course, 101 Ancient Ibaryath. This is a streaming online course for those of you who are House of Yasharallah or some of you are calling yourselves Israelites. This is the language and the script that the Hebrew scriptures were originally written in, y'all. So this is our pictographs, our language, and this course, 101 Ancient Ibaryath course, this streaming course is going to teach you this language, okay? It's going to teach you. So in the end, when you study this course well, you're going to be able to look at the scriptures and know what they mean in Ibaryath. You won't need a teacher. Now, that is not to say that when you go through this course, you're going to be speaking and reading and all of that. Ibaryath, you know, that's not how it works with the language, right? It takes years of persistent practice, just like with any other language. Okay, but I have made this course easy, entertaining, so it's fun, but it's intense and it's comprehensive, and you will learn if you put the effort in. You're going to get out of it just like everything else, what you put into it. But this is freedom. Jeremiah 8, verse 8. Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 1, 2, and 3. Or you can go the whole chapter. All right. All right. So let me get back to what I was doing. Give me 1 second, y'all. Give me 1 second. Let me find my place. I'm going to check if we have volume and if the live stream is okay or not. Okay, so we have volume. All right, so we're good. All right, so if you haven't already done so, I would like for you to subscribe to 101 Ancient Ibaryath. This course is going to be extremely helpful for you in your walk, in your effort to return to the Most High, more than I could possibly express to you in words, right? And this is ours. This is our heritage. So why wouldn't you want to subscribe? It's only $10. There's no more $1 for 1 day trial. That's over with. Okay. That's not available anymore. So now it's $10 per month subscription, no contract, cancel anytime. But I'm sure you're going to want to keep this course for years and years and years to come. All right. So now let's see. Oh, so today is going to be a very, very interesting lesson. It's going to be very interesting. Let me get the document ready. Let me get the PDF ready. Oh, by the way, if this is your first time here, I highly recommend that you look in the description area of this video and download the Devil's Pulpit PDF. Download that, and then when you get some time, print it and have it bound. All right, so that when we do these lectures, you can follow along with your own printed copy of the book, okay? And you can put margin notes or side notes. You can do whatever you want to do, all right? But I highly recommend that you do download it. So download it now, okay? So you have it, all right? So let's give it a few more minutes. Let some people come in. Let me just check to make sure I'm on the right page too. So by the way, call your friends or send your friends a text message. Let them know that we're about to begin the Astrotheology live stream, okay? Invite them to come so that we can have more people in the live stream and more people commenting. All right, so let me show you guys something. We're going to look at our illustration that we've been looking at, but we're going to look at some different things. All right, we're going to deal with this illustration today. All right, so this is the celestial globe, if so to speak, right? All right, so take a few minutes, scholars, and read through this. Try to get an understanding. Well, don't try. Get an understanding of what you're looking at right here, because we're going to deal with this today, okay? We're going to deal with this quite a bit today. So let's give it a minute while people come in. Let's see. All right. Yeah, let's give it a minute so that I don't have to explain everything again, right? So we'll give it a minute. Otherwise, when people come in, I'll have to explain everything again, and I don't want to do that. All right. So let's give it a minute. What is oh, today is Friday. No wonder. Okay, it's Friday night. Friday night, I understand. Everybody's late because it's Friday night. Maybe people won't show up because it's Friday night. Let's see, who knows? Or maybe it depends on your age, right? I remember when I was, well, no, well, I really can't. I can only speak for myself. So, no, I never did. Well, I did some things, but I didn't have a lifestyle of going out every weekend, even when I was younger. So let me just speak for myself. So we're going to consider this illustration. I'll wait a few more minutes, and otherwise I'm just going to go ahead and get started. And when I'm not, I'll just go ahead and do the whole presentation. All right. Or maybe I'll even cut it short because it's Friday night. I didn't realize it was Friday night. But anyway, I promised that I would do the live stream every day until we complete the book. And that's exactly what I'm going to do as long as I'm able and capable. That's what I'm, as a matter of fact, let's go ahead and get started. Here we go, y'all. All right. Welcome to Zion Law School. I'm Dr. Yasapa, and I am presenting The Devil's Pulpit, the chapter on Lecture on Freemasonry, Part 3. This is the presentation on the lecture on Freemasonry, Part 3. Keep in mind that this chapter opened up with Hebrews chapter 13, verse 20. Okay, so you can go back and listen to or watch the presentation we did yesterday, which is, I don't know if this is, I don't remember what the number presentation we're doing right now, but the one right before this is the one you'll go and get. Okay, it'll be the first, never mind. You guys can figure it out. So let me go ahead. Hold on a second. All right. All right. Yeah, you guys can figure it out. Yesterday's presentation. So, all right, scholars, let's begin. Again, we are on page 260. Let me get this right, y'all. See, I'm having a difficult time doing two things at one time. All right, so we're on page 267. Now, I should bring to your attention that we discussed the two columns, all right? The two columns or the two pillars, right? Everyone remembers that. You should remember. We discussed those two columns and those two pillars, and we're going to deal with that a lot more today, all right? And I need to do some reading first before we consider the illustration, because I'm just going to go ahead and get started, all right? So here we are. Let's go ahead and get started. We're on page 267. 267. And we will begin. No, you know what? Let's begin. We need this paragraph here. So let's begin on page 268, where the highlight is. So this is in review. We covered this yesterday. No. We're going to start here. We're going to start here. We covered this yesterday. Okay. So go back if you want the details. I'm only going to read through it for orientation purposes only. All right. So let's begin reading with the highlight. But the Adoniram of the Masonic mysteries has further betrayed the craft by telling the perfect master that the pillars, remember the pillars are Boaz and Jachin, by telling the perfect master that the pillars, Boaz and Jachin, are not only pillars, but crossways. So now there is a betrayal, and there are pillars, not just pillars, but crossways. And the names of these pillars are Boaz and Jachin. Keep those things in mind. Make a mental note. Next paragraph reads, excuse me, y'all. Next paragraph reads, now in the name of capital God, what are the crossways, but two ways of which the one crosses the other? Now he's asking a question, but at the same time answering the question, right? All right, let's continue. I ask no more of your credulity than that you would look on the heavens for yourselves, or on these representations of the heavens and earth. Because so the author is saying, listen, I'm not asking anything of you. You don't have to do anything crazy. Just look up into the sky. You look up into the sky. If you don't want to look into the sky, look at a celestial map. For example, let me show one. Now, remember, the author mentioned in yesterday's, a few pages ago, we covered it yesterday. The author mentioned that okay, so here's one illustration of a celestial map. All right, so the author is saying, look at something like this, but it could be any celestial map, right? Now, remember, the author told us, as I mentioned before, that the buildings, the megalithic structures, all of these amazing cathedrals, all of that stuff, and you look at them and you say, wow, how did they build that? The author has already told us that those things were built in harmony or in line with astronomical phenomena. He's already told us that. Okay, so this is what he's asking. So let's continue. I ask no more of your credulity than that you would look on the heavens for yourself, or on these representations of heavens and the earth, and then try to deny, if you can, that these crossways, Boaz and Jachin, are the vernal and equinoctial points at which the line of the ecliptic, so here we're on the next page, at which the line of the ecliptic crosses the line of the equator. I'm going to show you all this, okay, so we can visualize it. I'm going to show that. That is the sun, sun, in his apparent path, the ecliptic. Okay, so what did the author just tell us? The ecliptic is the orbit of the sun. The sun in his apparent path, that's the sun's orbit, is called the ecliptic. Comes to shine directly over the line of the equator. Y'all hear that? Comes to shine directly over the line of the equator. This it does in spring and autumn, and only then. Hence these comings together, that is, comings of the line of the sun's sun path to the line of the equator, are called the two covenants. The two covenants, or the two testaments. And you have the reason in heaven, while no earthly reason whatever could be assigned. Did you guys understand that, scholars? The author is saying that the reason why they're called a covenant or testaments, right? There is a celestial reason. What's that reason? The sun crosses the celestial equator. I'm going to show you that. That's the reason that it's called covenant. Or in other words, remember from a few pages ago, covenant. Covenant. You guys should remember that. There are two covenant or two testaments, right? So that's the celestial reason. But the author is saying that there's no earthly reason. There's no earthly reason. Continue. Let's continue reading. While no earthly reason, whatever, could be assigned, why there should be only two covenants or two testaments, the old and the new. So the author is saying there is no explanation as to why there's an old and new covenant and not a third covenant. You guys got it? Okay, so now let's get into the visualization aspect of this. Let me go back. Let's visualize what the author is talking about. Very important to always visualize things when you can. It simplifies learning, and you'll know if you know it or not, right? Okay, so here's the vernal equinox, March 21st. Remember, there's equal number of daylight hours and nighttime hours at the equinox, right? Equal. All right, March 21st. This is the vernal or spring equinox where the cursor is. Follow this line right here. You see the straight line? You see that line, it goes all the way through to the other side, right? Everybody see that? But the line stops here, doesn't it? Because the earth is there. So this is one pillar. Y'all see that? This is one pillar. This is the spring equinox pillar. Now let's go to the other side of the earth. The line continues. Here's the line. This is the second pillar. This is the second pillar. This is the autumn equinox, 12 hours of daylight, 12 hours of nighttime. This is the second pillar. So now we have two pillars. Everybody see that? So in other words, we have one line that represents the equinox or the equinoctial line. This is the equinoctial line. It is broken in two by the earth. So one pillar is called Jachin and the other pillar is called Boaz. So go back to yesterday's video to learn more about the meaning of Boaz and Jachin. But just as a refresher, it means might and right. Or in other words, might is right, strength is justice. All right. Okay, so now let's continue. So here we see the yellow line. This is the sun's orbit. In other words, this is the ecliptic. This is the ecliptic. The ecliptic is the sun's orbit. So this yellow ball, that's the sun. All right. This is the ecliptic. This is the ecliptic. Now, this orange line, again, this orange line is the celestial equator. The orange line is the celestial equator. Now, the ecliptic crosses the equator here. So when the sun is where the cursor is, when the sun is where the cursor is, that is the covenant or the covenant or the testament. And over here, you see the orbit of the sun, the ecliptic, crossing the celestial equator. So when the sun is here where the cursor is in the spring, when the sun crosses the celestial equator, that is again a covenant or a covenant, a testament. Okay? All right. Excuse me. Excuse me. That is a covenant. So let's continue. Let us continue. All right. Is it clear? Any questions about this, scholars? Any questions about the illustrations? Put your question in the chat. I'm going to pause for a minute, give you a chance to put questions in the chat about what we just covered with the illustrations. The key point or the takeaway or what you need to understand in the paragraph that we just read, You need to know where the covenants or the testaments are, all right? And you need to know what the two pillars are, right? Jachin and Boaz. That's the point of that, all right? Where is it happening? At the equinoxes. What are the equinoxes? It's spring equinox and fall equinox. And there's a reason. There's a reason. All right, so I don't see any questions in the comment section, so let's go back to our presentation. All right. Okay, so here we are. Next paragraph, we're going to begin. Oops. Hold on. I'm on the wrong page. Give me 1 second, y'all. All right. So we're here, y'all. Oops. So we're going to start on this paragraph, the highlight. That's where we are. Page 269. Page 269. We are on page 269. So let's begin reading. Which covenants? St. Paul. Now, remember, we're talking about the covenants and the two testaments, Old and New, right? Which covenants St. Paul expressly tells the Freemasons of Galatia, quote, are an allegory. Let me read it again. Which covenants, he's talking about the old and the new that he just mentioned, which covenants, the old and the new, St. Paul expressly tells the Freemasons. Now, St. Paul did not tell you, the believer. He tells the Freemasons of Galatia. Note the difference. Which covenants St. Paul expressly tells the Freemasons of Galatia, quote, are an allegory, that is, are a fairy tale. They are a made-up story, end quote. That is, most expressly, the whole contents of both the Old and the New Testament are in every respect a mere allegory, that is, fairy tale, and not a word of historical truth, nor was anything like history ever intended. Now, we need to do a call-in show to discuss this. We definitely need to do a call-in show to discuss this. So put a 1 in the chat, in the comment section, if you want to do a call-in show to discuss this, because the author is making the claim. He's making a claim that none of the testaments are real. And it's okay to make a claim, right? What matters is the evidence that you present to prove your claim is true. So we need to discuss the evidence, right? So I'm going to continue reading to see what evidence he produces or he provides for us, okay? And then we can make a determination as to whether his statement is true or not. Are they fairy tales? Well, let's see what the evidence is. Let's continue with the next paragraph. Now, sirs, when I take an algebraic problem and work it out geometrically, it is admitted to be science. It is called demonstration. Now, that is correct. If then I take the terms of an admitted allegory, first problem I see with his argument. He says, if then, all right? If then, we know he did it, okay? So it's not a really if then. Figure of speech. If then I take the terms of an admitted allegory. Now, who's admitting that it's an allegory? In this instance, St. Paul. St. Paul admits to Freemasons that both the Old and New Testaments are fairy tales, allegories. Who else admits that the Old and New Testaments are allegory, fairy tales. Some church fathers, more specifically, I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, the church fathers were writing that the gospels were allegories. That's what my memory tells me. They were referring to the gospels being allegory or being astronomical. Okay. So now we have the church fathers. We know their reputations. We know their fruit. We know that they are pedophiles, murderers, liars, power hungry, destroying peoples and nations, putting people in debt servitude. We know their reputation. Do we know St. Paul's reputation? We know St. Paul's reputation, whether you think his reputation is right or wrong, true or false. We know his reputation, right? As far as what he did in Christianity. All right. So now, the author is saying here, if then I take the terms of an alleged, let me repeat that. If then I take the terms of an admitted allegory, of an admitted fairy tale, now we have to look at the character and the history of the people who made the claims that they're allegories, right? I mean, that's, the author has told us we need to look at this as though we are lawyers looking at evidence in a murder case. Right? So the reputation and character of the people making claims matters. In law, if you find that one person has lied, then you're supposed to dismiss everything they said. Right? You dismiss everything they said because they told one lie. Right? Now let's continue. Let's continue. If then I take the terms of an admitted allegory, an admitted fairy tale, and find them answering in every respect whatever to their solution in the visible phenomena of nature, is not that demonstration? So now let's go back and look at that. Let's go look at it. Now, I don't disagree with him on this point. Let me take a look at the comment. Gary Tucker writes, Shalom, Gary Tucker, St. Paul, disciple or deceiver. There's some great books written about this. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Some people say that he produced something entirely different from the Gospels. Let's take a look at this illustration. Now, we do see, we can confirm that the sun's orbit, the ecliptic, we can confirm that it crosses the celestial equator in autumn. This is the autumn equinox. We can confirm that. And we can confirm that the celestial, that the sun or the ecliptic crosses the celestial equator in the spring. We can confirm that. So that is a demonstration. What else can we confirm? We can confirm these two pillars. They do exist. This line right here is the equinoctial line. We confirm that it exists. So there, it is broken by the earth, so that there are two pillars. We confirm it. This is the natural phenomena that the author is talking about. We can confirm that. Now let's continue reading. Let me go back. Well, wait a minute, y'all. I lost my page again. My page, I keep losing. Okay, there we are. All right, so let me read it again for y'all. If then I take the terms of an admitted allegory and find them answering in every respect whatever to their solution in the visible phenomena of nature. We just looked at the visible phenomena of nature. Is not that demonstration? The answer is yes, that is absolutely demonstration. Let's continue reading. Is it clear, scholars? Is that clear? All right. If you have questions, put it in the comment section, please. If you have questions, please put it in the comment section. And let's go ahead back to the Devil's Pulpit. All right. Like and share the video, please, scholars. Also call and text people. Let them know that we're doing the Astrotheology presentation right now so they can come in and join us. Okay, so we're on the next paragraph. We'll start reading with the highlight. It reads, "Give me then the mathematically accurate points of the two covenants of spring and autumn." We just saw them, right? "And resist the demonstration. Who can?" So in other words, the author is saying, you can't deny what you just saw with your own eyes, right? We just looked at it. The author says you cannot deny it. "That every figure of speech with respect to the two covenants answers to the absolute relations of nature at those seasons." Okay, so now y'all, we need to go back. We need to go back to the illustration so I can show y'all this. So we're going to look at what's happening naturally at the spring equinox, and then we're going to look at what's happening natural. In other words, the natural phenomena occurring in the spring and the natural phenomena occurring in the autumn equinox. Okay, so I want to you guys see if you have your printed copy, then you can read. If you don't have the printed copy, you won't be able to see this while I go to the illustration. So when you get a chance, scholars, print off the PDF so you'll be able to follow along, okay? All right, so let's go back. So we're going to start with the spring column, okay? The spring equinox. Spring equinox begins March 21st at 21 minutes after 8 in the morning. Now, remember, this was in the year 1831. Spring equinox begins March 21st at 21 minutes after 8 in the morning. So that's 8:21 a.m. Spring. Spring is the covenant of works or the covenant of labor, right? When men must cultivate the earth. The Jewish dispensation. The Jewish dispensation is the law, truth, righteousness, Boaz. So spring, this pillar right here is Boaz. The spring pillar is Boaz. All right. So back to the Jewish dispensation, the law, truth, righteousness, Boaz. Masonry under the law of types and shadows. Now, the interesting thing about this is that the religious organization that I was in for all of those decades, they built and structured document and prophecy or fulfillment of prophecy. They base it on types and shadows, which is a Freemason concept. Y'all see it? Masonry under the law of types and shadows, a shadow of the things to come. The law, was it the law is a shadow of the things to come? I don't remember all of that stuff. It's not at the top of my mind, but I do remember, and you all know that there is a prominent religious organization that knock on people's doors in the morning or afternoon, right? And they are known and have been exposed to be involved in Freemasonry. Also in the Knights Templar. Okay, I didn't know it at the time. I only found this stuff out maybe 4 or 5 years ago, if even that. Autumn equinox, September 23rd. The autumn equinox begins on September 23rd at 46 minutes after 7 in the afternoon. What in the world is 7 in the afternoon, y'all? There's a 7 in the morning, 7 in the evening. Maybe at that time they call evening afternoon. I have no clue. Or maybe this is a typo. Autumn is the covenant of grace. Y'all remember that, right? Autumn is the covenant of grace when they are to enjoy the fruits of their labors. Autumn is the Christian dispensation. Why? Because remember, autumn is the deity Jesus, right? So that's the Christian dispensation. The Christian dispensation, the gospel, God's spell, mercy, peace, and this column is Jachin. This is the column Jachin. So here we have it. Spring is Boaz, and then autumn equinox pillar is called Jachin. Everybody see that? Masonry under the law of grace and truth. So the autumn equinox, Masonry under the law of grace and truth. Is it clear, scholars? Is it clear? Let's continue back to our book. Anybody have any questions or need clarifications, put it in the comment, and then I will get to it. All right. If I don't see any questions, I'm going to continue going forward. All right. So let's continue. 1 second. Let us continue. One moment. Where is my file? All right, there we are. So we're back on page 269. We're going to begin reading at the highlight, which is the last paragraph. Hence it is that in the gospel covenant, that is, at the autumn equinox, hence it is that in the gospel covenant, that is, in the autumn equinox, when all of the great ends of which the year exist are annexed. Let me turn the page for y'all. Y'all understand that? Autumn equinox, the whole year, the whole year is made for the autumn equinox. In other words, the autumn equinox is the climactic point of the year. Everything else is made for, builds up to, and leads up to the climactic autumn equinox. All right, so let me read that. So we're going to begin here. But let me read the sentence that we just read so that it flows nicely. Hence it is that in the gospel covenant, that is, at the autumn equinox, when all the great ends for which the year exists are annexed, when the sun, son of Aries, y'all got that? The sun, son of Aries, our constellation is Aries. So when the sun, sun of Aries, when the son of Aries, the ram of March, when the son of Aries, the ram of March, has come into Libra. Libra are the balance scales of September. Balance, the balance scales of September. That is righteousness, right? That is balanced justice. That is justice at all costs. The allegorical conundrum is, quote, mercy and truth are met together. Righteousness and peace have kissed each other. End quote. That's coming from Psalms 85. Let me read that again for y'all, because we're going to develop this. Hence it is that in the gospel covenant, that is, at the autumn equinox, when all the great ends of the year that exist are annexed, when the sun, son of Aries, son of Aries, what's the constellation? Son of Aries, Aries, the ram of March, has come into Libra. Aries, Ram of March, Libra, the balance scales of September. Note scholars, the allegorical conundrum. In other words, the fairy tale has a big problem. Quote, mercy and truth are met together. Righteousness and peace have kissed each other, end quote. That's a quotation from Psalms 85. And this kissing takes place, where should it else, or where else should it? On the lips of the virgin. Who's the virgin, scholars? The virgin is Virgo. The virgin is the constellation Virgo. Keep these constellations in mind. Keep the constellations in mind. And this kissing takes place on the lips of the virgin. That's Virgo. That's a question. That's a question. You see the question mark there. Let's continue. Keep these things in your mind. Where are we? Am I on the right page? No, I'm on the wrong page. I went up too far. Hold on, y'all. I should be on page 270. All right, here we are. This is where I should be. So we'll begin at the highlight. But not till capital God's justice has been satisfied. In other words, that kiss, well, the crossing, mercy, let me repeat it. But not till capital God's justice has been satisfied. So, but not till, what is he talking about? What we just read in the last paragraph, quote, mercy and truth are met together. Righteousness and peace have kissed each other. That's not going to happen until capital God's justice has been satisfied, right? Right? Let's go back and look again. It says, and this kissing takes place on the lips of the virgin. That's a question. Next paragraph. But not till capital God's justice has been satisfied. So that's not going to happen until justice has been satisfied. So what is this justice that needs to be satisfied? That's the obvious question, right? Let's continue reading. And how can capital God's justice be satisfied? But by the sun's, S-U-N, going a little bit further than the Virgin of August. That's Virgo, right? And putting himself into the scales of September. Y'all see that? That's how justice was satisfied. The sun goes a little bit further than the Virgin or Virgo of August. The sun, in other words, the sun exits Virgo. And then the sun enters Libra, which are the balance scales of September. And now capital God's justice has been satisfied. Why? Because the scales of Libra is justice, or are justice. No exception, no excuses. Justice at all cost. Righteousness. Everybody see that? Now let's continue to the next paragraph. And out of those scales of justice, he will not get, and that justice, therefore, will not be satisfied without a crucifixion. And out of those scales of Libra, he will not get. And out of those scales of Libra, he will not get. And that justice, therefore, will not be satisfied without a crucifixion. So the sun ain't going nowhere. The sun is not going to leave Libra without a crucifixion taking place. So what is this crucifixion, and where does the crucifixion take place? It takes place in Libra, in the constellation Libra. But where, or what is it? We need to visualize it, don't we? Let's continue reading. For in those scales of justice is the crossway Jachin. Jachin is the pillar, so we already know what that is, right? For in those scales of justice is the crossway Jachin, where the line of the ecliptic crosses the equator. Now, if there's a crucifixion, we know that autumn is JC, right? The deity whose name is spelled Jesus. He was crucified, right? Jachin, let's go back to our illustration. Jachin is the pillar, Jachin is the pillar of the autumn equinox, right? So let's go back to the illustration. Okay, so here we are. All right. So here we are. Let me take a look. I want to cover. So here's Boaz. Boaz, remember, is the pillar. Spring equinox is the covenant of labor. They got to work, till the soil, get all the rocks out, mineralize it, mineralize the soil, right? Break the soil up so that plants can grow, so that water can get in. Build fences, keep the animals out, water, plow. All of that work begins to happen in the fall, in the spring, right? Spring equinox. That's why it's called the covenant of labor. Okay. Now, so that's Boaz. Boaz, labor. Jachin, harvest, right? So the pillar in the autumn equinox, this is the harvest. This is the covenant of grace. That's where you get to collect your corn harvest, your wine harvest. That's when you party, right? That's when you party. Everybody see that? Now, autumn equinox, this is also the deity of the autumn equinox. If you recall from previous presentations, this is JC. Well, not JC, it's only JESUS, okay? JESUS is the deity of the autumn equinox. All right, so now let's continue. Let's continue, okay? We must continue. Let me read something to you. And Jachin, this is on page 268, first paragraph. And Jachin, the pillar at the crossway of justice. Okay, here's the pillar. Jachin. Here is the crossway of justice, where the sun in its ecliptic crosses the celestial equator in the autumn equinox. Right here, this is Libra. This is the balanced scales. Okay, Virgo is somewhere over here in August, right? Virgo is in August. Let me make sure I'm right. Yes. And the kissing takes place on the lips of the Virgin of August. That's on page 270, the first paragraph. Okay, so now let's go back to page 268. And Jachin, here's Jachin, the pillar Jachin, autumn equinox. And Jachin, the pillar at the crossway of justice. Here's the crossway of justice. Everybody see it? And Jachin is master of the fellow craft masons who enjoy the fruits of their labor. Now let's go to Boaz. Boaz is the pillar of the spring. We're still on page 268. Boaz is the pillar of the spring. While Boaz, the pillar at the left crossway, is only master of the apprentice masons who do all the work, right? Covenant of labor. Boaz is stuck having to deal with entered or new Masons, right? Entered apprentices, and they do all the work, right? And then Jachin gets all of the benefit. All right, so now let's go back to page 270. All right, again, so what are we needing to focus our attention on? The crossways, and also the constellations. Okay, September, where the crossway is happening here, where the sun crosses the celestial equator in September. This is a crossway. This is happening in the scales of justice in Libra. Before there in August, before that in August, the sun was in the constellation Virgo, the Virgin. Virgo, the Virgin, right? Virgo, the Virgin. But justice had to be done. So the sun went a little bit further and entered into the scales of Libra. All right, now let's continue reading. And out of those scales he will not get, and that justice therefore will not be satisfied without a crucifixion. For in those scales of justice, the crossway, here, the crossway, Jachin, where the line of the ecliptic crosses the equator. Everybody see that? Eternal capital G-O-D. Oops, I skipped it. Hold on. Let me go back. As you read in the allegorical gospel, quote, now there stood by the cross of J.C. Let me repeat that. Not J.C., just the deity whose name is spelled J-E-S-U-S. As you read in the allegorical fairy tale gospel, quote, now there stood by the cross of the deity whose name is spelled J-E-S-U-S, Mary, his mother, end quote. Eternal capital G-O-D. And does she not stand there still? Can the clergy say that I did this? Who is Mary? Mary is Virgo, the Virgin of August. So Virgo, the Virgin of August, stands still next to the deity whose name is spelled J-E-S-U-S, gets crucified. Everybody see that? According to the author, this is the astronomical or the astrological meaning. Mary, the constellation of Virgo, the Virgin, stood next to her son, J-E-S-U-S, as he was crucified, or at the crossway, where the sun crosses the celestial equator. Clear as day, right? Clear as day. And as you read in the allegorical gospel, well, let's go back to the PDF. Y'all like and share, please, the video. Invite your friends. Let's see. Gary Tucker writes, Paul espoused Hellenistic Jewish doctrines which were made form Gentile Christianity. Yes, indeed. Which centered around polytheism, Greek deities, and animistic worship. Excellent point, Gary Tucker. That's his reputation. That's his reputation, traitor or not, right? Gary Tucker writes, that's right. It's written that Mary was present at the crucifixion. Yes, indeed. So the author is saying he's demonstrated. The author is saying he's provided a demonstration. In the same way, if you take a mathematical problem, mathematical equation, and then work it out geometrically, that's a demonstration of science. So the author is saying what he just showed us is also a demonstration, is also science. Excellent point, Gary Tucker. Thank you. All right. So y'all like and share the video. Contact some of your friends and ask them to come here. Let them know that we're doing this astrotheology presentation. This is really information that you won't get from other sources, right? Or maybe you will only hear about this, but you won't get the whole story like you're getting right now. So we're going to start at the highlight. We're going to start right here at the highlight here, right there. All right. As you read in the allegorical gospels, quote, now there stood by the cross of the deity whose name is spelled Jesus, Mary, his mother, eternal capital God. And does she not stand there still? Can the clergy say that I did this? In other words, why y'all getting mad at me? I didn't do it. It was already like that. I'm just telling it to the people. Why do they shake their gory locks at me? Why do they shake their gory locks at me? Okay, so the author is saying they want to do something to him, right? Because they're showing him that they're angry at him. But see here stands the Virgin of August by the side of the cross of September. We saw it astronomically. But see here stands the Virgin or Virgo, the constellation Virgo, the Virgin of August, the constellation Virgo in August by the side of the cross of September. That cross is happening in the scales of Libra. What? And say my barbarous persecutors, do I make nothing but an allegory, a fairy tale of that awful display of the divine attribute when capital God to satisfy his own justice? What is this word? Vouchsafed to be crucified? What's this word, y'all? Hold on. Let me highlight this. I'm gonna have to look this word up because I don't know this word. Y'all see that word? I have no clue what that means. Give me 1 second. Let's look it up. Vouchified. I have no idea what this means. Give me 1 second. Vouch. Hold on, I don't even know how to pronounce that. All right, so let's see what this is. Oh, vouchsafe. It's vouchsafe. Vouchsafe. The meaning of vouchsafe is to grant or furnish often in a gracious or condescending manner. How to use vouchsafe? Okay, so let's see. Vouchsafed. 1, to give a grant or condescend to give or grant. All right. Two, may take a clause. No. Okay. All right. So this is to give a grant. That would be to give something and you don't expect something back, or condescend to give or grant. You either do it sincerely or you do it insincerely, giving a grant. All right. So let's go back. I'm clear. All right. Back to the PDF. All right, so the author continues to write. The author writes, and do I make nothing more of mercy and truth? Oh, let me go back. Vouchified to be crucified. Okay, so now what the author is saying is that he was granted to be crucified, right? What? And say my barbarous persecutors? Do I make nothing but an allegory, a fairy tale of that awful display of the divine attribute when capital God to satisfy his own justice gives a grant to be crucified? Y'all got that? The author is saying, how is that justice? Right? You're granting somebody to be crucified like a real life crucifixion. How is that justice? And you're innocent, right? You've done nothing wrong. How is that justice? That's what the author is saying. It's only justice if it's astronomical. There's nobody really suffering a literal crucifixion. It's just the sun at the point where it crosses the celestial equator. All right. Any questions about that? Put it in the comments and then I'll address it. So let's continue. That makes a lot of sense to me. That makes a whole lot of sense to me, right? Why would the deity need to satisfy his own justice by crucifying a man, drilling up, hammering nails through his head? How does that satisfy justice? And he was innocent. I know the religious people will say, well, no, he was settling the sins of the people, right? But then that's also problematic too, right? Isn't it? Y'all take a look at the scapegoat. That's also and see who carried the sins of the people. But that has nothing to do with what we're talking about right now. What I want to focus on is this. If it has an astronomical meaning and it's just the sun crossing the celestial equator, then it makes sense. But if it's a literal crucifixion to satisfy the deity's justice, then what kind of justice is that, right? It seems cruel. But anyway, let's continue. Let's continue. Do I make nothing more of mercy and truth meeting together than a mere allegory of what happens every autumn of our lives? No, nothing more. But I do with my Bible what my persecutors never do or never did with theirs. I read it and understand what I read. So now, this is a big issue. Big issue. Why is it a big issue? Why am I calling it a big issue? If you've been coming here for a long time, you should know what I'm about to do and show. The author says he reads. He reads. Speaking words. For example, you may hear people say, oh, man, I read that whole verse or I read that whole chapter and I didn't understand what I was reading. But they're able to pronounce the words, but they cannot comprehend the text. This is what the author is saying. Let me read it again. Let me read it again. The author says, know nothing more, but I do with my Bible what my persecutors, these are the preachers and pastors, Freemasons who had him put in jail and then branded him the devil's preacher, the devil's chaplain. No, nothing more, but I do with my Bible what my persecutors never do or did with theirs. I read it. I understand what I read. In order for you to understand what you're reading, you must know etymology. You must know grammar and grammar rules. You must understand linguistic concepts. Otherwise, you're just pronouncing some words and you're not going to understand. In other words, you're not going to comprehend well. You'll have poor or average reading skills, right? And everybody knows that the scriptures, you need to have some good reading skills to be able to comprehend. Now, let's go back and do what we always do. I cannot emphasize this enough. If you haven't already subscribed to 101 Ancient Ibaryath course, you should really consider subscribing now. Let's go ahead and show the verse. Everybody should know this verse by now. Jeremiah chapter 8, verse 8. We're going to go to the Bible Hub and we're going to go to the Amplified Bible. Why the Amplified Bible? Because it reads easier than all of the other ones. Jeremiah chapter 8, verse 8 in the Amplified Bible reads, how can you say we are wise and the law of the Most High is with us. Wisdom is the proper application of knowledge. How can you say we are applying knowledge correctly? And the instructions, the law, the commandments of the Most High is with us. And we are learned in its language, not biblical Hebrew, not modern Hebrew, but ancient Ibaryath and its teachings. The teachings are the instructions, which are called laws and commandments. See, the author is saying, how can you say this and you don't even understand ancient Ibaryath language? So how can you know if you're applying the Most High's instructions properly, because you don't even know what they are? This is what Isaiah is telling us. Behold, the truth is that the lying pen of the scribes have made the law into a lie. Behold, the truth is that the lying pen of the scribes have made the law into a lie. A mere code of ceremonial observances. This is by definition religion. Our ancestors, the scribes, made the Most High's instructions, our records, into religion, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, the Muslim religion, and then all the ones that are derived or come from those. Everybody see that? So, if you don't know how to read, you are going to be subject to all of the abuses and usury that Jeremiah warned us about. All right? These lying scribes, our ancestors, wrote lies in the scripture and they created religion. Y'all see that? These are things that we did not have until they did this. Jeremiah was living around, he was a young man around the time when the Babylonian captivity began. Again, for emphasis, the scriptures have lies in them. You are looking at it right here. And these lies in the scriptures were used to create religions. What religions? Judaism, Christianity, and the Islamic religion. It is what it is. Take it how you want to take it. All right. I'm going to read what the author wrote one more again for emphasis. Know nothing more, but I do with my Bible what my persecutors never do or did with their Bible. I read it. I understand what I read. In other words, in order for you to know how to read, you must understand linguistics and etymology. You must understand linguistics and etymology. It's only at that point where you can get past the connotative linguistics. Only at that point where you can get past the connotative linguistics by getting down to the etymological meaning of words and understand their context through the use of grammar rules, understanding them, looking at this information scientifically. This is why I created the 101 Ancient Ibaryath course. This is why I created the 101 Ancient Ibaryath course, so you can learn this information and so that you can free yourself from the clutches of these religious leaders. And so you can take control of your life and your walk with the Most High. You can take control of it because now you'll learn how to interpret the scriptures on your own. No more need of a mediator who is your pastor, reverend, imam, Moshe, Moreh, all of that stuff. So what you're looking at here, the top line you're looking at is Ibaryath. Okay, that bottom line is the rendering of each word. And this word, this English down here is the, let's call it the finished sentence. Of course, this is not how I teach it in the classroom. I teach it a different way than what I'm telling you now, but this is not the classroom. I'm just showing you what you're looking at. So if you haven't already ordered 101 Ancient Ibaryath, go ahead and order now. This is a streaming online course. This is going to help you do what the author has demonstrated as we've been, this is presentation 56 or 57, I don't remember. But you've seen these demonstrations. This course, this streaming course that you can do at home, will teach you how to do the same thing, but even more than what you've seen the author doing. All right, y'all, let's continue. Let's go into some of these comments. Okay, Hidden Gems writes, the cross is the sword of King Arthur. The stone is the vessel, the body upon which the commandments are inscribed, the sword of authority. Who is king is stabbed into the stone. Man, a scepter to cut. Thank you very much. Excellent comment. Hidden Gems continues. Know the ledge and you shall never stumble. I like that. Hidden Gems continues. Gird thy tongue. All right, thank you. All right, Gary Tucker writes, if you comprehend what you're reading, then you probably won't be in religion. Excellent point. You won't fit in. Excellent point. Roderick's point of view writes, Jeremiah 31, the real new covenant says we would no longer need teachers. So you're on point. Absolutely, indeed. Absolutely, indeed. They got all of these mediators, y'all. All of these mediators. And we know what their purpose is, right? We know what their purpose is. They're in it to win it, not only to get paid. See, here's the thing. Some people may not be aware of this. If you are in the loop, the power loop, you're in the power loop. Money is not important to you because you have plenty and you're discharging debt, right? You're discharging debt. You're in the loop. And you got plenty of, you got as much money as you want. But what you don't have is what? Power and control. So people who have money, all the money that they could ever imagine, they discharge everything, right? Everything is free, basically, right? Their lust is for power and control. So if they want your wife or they want your son or your daughter, well, you better believe they're going to be 24/7 thinking about how to get them, right? Or if they want you to work for them, to do something, a project for them, they're going to be working on you to get that done because money is not an issue to them. They got plenty, right? And they can discharge that, they buy a house and then discharge it, right? And they don't have to worry about anything because they're in the loop. Nobody's going to block it. Nobody's going to postpone you for 2 years while you try to do it. They do it and then boom, it's done. Money's not a problem. The issue is power and control over people. Over people. So if you let these people control you, you're finished. You're playing their game. All right, let's continue. Let's continue with the reading. So if you haven't subscribed already to 101 Ancient Ibaryath, go ahead and subscribe right now. There's no more $1 for 1 day trial. It's $10. That's still basically free, y'all. I mean, the value of this course is easy 10 grand. Easy. Y'all go check out these Jewish schools and see what they're charging. And that's not even our stuff. They'll be teaching you biblical Hebrew or modern Hebrew. Okay? And see how many thousands they're going to charge you and what you walk away with. All right, so let's continue. Let's go back to the PDF. So think as a nation, invest in yourself, invest in the nation. Go ahead and subscribe. Don't let my work be in vain to put that course together. It's 113 videos. Okay, so here we are. We're going to begin on the last paragraph right here. It reads, let me see where. Hold on. All right. So let's continue at the highlighted part. And I read immediately in the context that when mercy and truth met together and righteousness and peace kiss each other, then it is that, quote, your land doeth yield her increase, end quote. Y'all got that? When mercy and truth meet together and righteousness and peace kiss each other, then it is that, quote, our land do yield her increase, end quote. And if it be not in autumn that our land doeth yield her increase, why then I'll try again and say with the holy David in the 74th Psalm, quote, O capital Lord, look upon the covenant, for all the earth is full of darkness and cruel habitations, end quote. So now we're looking at Psalm 74, in addition to Psalms 85, which reads, mercy and truth are met together, righteousness and peace have kissed each other. Now, mercy and truth and righteousness kissing each other, that's when the land doeth yield her increase. So that should be the autumn equinox, right? The author continues, why then I'll try again. If what? If our land, let me read this again. And if not in the autumn that our land doeth yield her increase, y'all got that? If not in the autumn, then we're going to look at Psalm 74, which reads, O capital Lord, look upon the covenant, for all the earth is full of darkness and cruel habitations. Note that, y'all. He's going to develop this, which I should understand to mean, quote, give us an abundant harvest and a luxurious vintage. Luxurious vintage means winemaking, right? Give us an abundant harvest and a lot of wine, a lot of grapes, so we can make some sweet wine, as thou hast promised to reward our labor for all the earth. That is, all that part of the earth which falls below the points of the covenant. Now, we need to find this place that falls below the points of the covenant, right? Below the points of the covenant. Why? Because it has to do with Psalm 74, which reads again, O capital Lord, look upon the covenant, for all the earth is full of darkness and cruel habitations. Key word, darkness. Well, all the earth is full of darkness and cruel habitation. Clear? Clear, scholars? Clear? All right, so let's read this quote again. Give us an abundant harvest and a luxurious vintage, as thou hast promised to reward our labor for all the earth, that is, all that part of the earth which falls below the points of the covenant. What covenant? The equinoxes, right? Boaz and Jachin. So what is below the covenant? We need to take a look at that. All right. So all these points below the covenant is full of darkness and gloomy days. And all the celestial mansions, you will recall that celestial mansions are constellations, the zodiac. Then over it are cruel habitations. So at the points below the covenant, Boaz and Jachin, all of these are cruel habitations, full of dark and gloomy days. We should already know what this is, right? Just by reading it. All right, the damnation of Scorpio of October. The cruel archer of November. That would be Sagittarius, right? The filthy goat of December. The nothing but cold water of January to drink. That's Aquarius, right, y'all? The water bearer. And nothing but scaly fish of February to eat. That would be Pisces. Now let's go ahead and take a look at this, okay? Let's go back to our, let me see. Shalawama, Apostle Sakan. Shalawama, Dr. Yasapa, peace. All right, all right. How did you know that, Apostle Yawana? All right. You surprised me with that. Good work, my friend. Good work, good work. All right, so now let's go take a look. Let's visualize what we just read, scholars. All right. Let's visualize what we just read. All right, so here we are. So here is Boaz, the pillar of the vernal equinox, the pillar of the spring equinox. That is Boaz. Remember, we're talking about these pillars. We're dealing with might, power, strength, right? In other words, might is right, strength is power, or strength is justice. Okay, and the pillar of the autumn equinox is Jachin. Okay, so every point below the covenant, these are what? Dark and gloomy days. So from the autumn equinox, we'll begin in September. September, October, November, December, January, February. Y'all got it? What's happening in the fall? Starting to get cold, right? And then we go into what? The beginning of winter. Starting to get even more cold, more dark and gloomy, right? Deep winter is freezing. January is freezing, right? February, you may get a little bit of thawing out. And then March, you're back at the covenant. So from October, let me read this for y'all while we're looking at it. Let me read it for y'all. It reads, and I'm going to start back at the 74th Psalm, okay? And I'm going to start from the beginning of the paragraph, just so it's clear. And I read immediately in the context that when Mary and truth meet together, and righteousness and peace kiss each other. Now, here's righteousness and peace kissing each other, right? When the sun crosses the celestial equator during the autumn equinox, all right? And I read immediately in the context that when Mary and truth meet each other and righteousness and peace kiss each other, then it is that, quote, our land doeth yield her increase. That is correct. The harvest comes in the fall equinox. That is correct, right? Continues. And if it be not in autumn that our land doeth yield her increase, why then I'll try again and say with the holy David in the 74th Psalm. In other words, okay, you didn't do any work, you didn't get a harvest. So let's try to get a harvest after the fall. This is when Psalm 74 kicks in. Oh, capital Lord, look upon the covenant. Here's the covenant, right? Here's the covenant, the autumn equinox, okay? Look upon the autumn equinox. Look upon the covenant. For all the earth is full of darkness and cruel habitations. So fall going into winter is dark. Wintertime is cruel, it's dark, people are stealing. Well, because it's dark, more wild animals are out, right? So you got, it's more dangerous, right? Right? Cruel habitations and darkness, end quote, which I should understand to mean. So the author is saying, the author is interpreting Psalm 74. What does darkness and cruel habitation mean? That's what the author is saying, which I should understand to mean, quote, give us an abundant harvest and a luxurious vintage. Give us a lot of food from the harvest and a lot of sweet wine and a lot of grapes so we can make a lot of sweet wine, as thou hast promised to reward our labor. What labor? The labor, the covenant of labor, where you put in all of that work to get all of that good harvest in the autumn, right? As thou hast promised to reward our labor. for all the earth, that is, all the part of the earth which falls below the points of the covenant. This is below the points of the covenant. This semicircle right here, this is below the points of the covenant. How do we know it's below? Because this is the declination. This is the lowest point the sun can go in its orbit around the earth. This is the lowest point, the declination. So that's how we know. And where does the declination come in? December 22nd. The sun reaches its lowest point in the celestial heavens, December 22nd. So now we know that these points going from September to December are the lowest points, and then all the way back to March. These are the points below the covenant. Y'all see that these are the dark and gloomy habitations. All right, now let's continue. The domination or the damnation Scorpio of October. So in October, there's what? The constellation or zodiac Scorpio. In November, there's the Archer, that's Sagittarius, right? And then in December, there's the filthy goat of December. And then January, there's, I believe it's Aquarius, the water bearer, right? It says, but only cold water of January to drink. And then the scaly fish of February. So the scaly fish of February would be Pisces, right? I think Pisces is the fish. Everybody got that? If I got these constellations, these zodiacs wrong, please forgive me. But the point is that October is cold, dark, and gloomy. November is cold, dark, and gloomy. December is cold, dark, and gloomy. January and February are also cold, dark, and gloomy. And guess what, y'all? People commit crimes when it's dark. People commit crimes when they're hungry. In the winter, in the fall, they don't have food if they're poor. And the wild animals are at night. So you got to watch out for the wild animals at night too. So the points below the covenant are gloomy and dark, dangerous habitations. That's the author's meaning. All right, now let's continue. Let's go back to the document. Go back to our PDF. Let's go back to our PDF. Let me know if you have any questions in the comment section. I'm wondering why. Are you all understanding what's going on? I mean, do you enjoy this information, or what's up? I'm noticing that the comment section is quiet. What's going on, y'all? So we're going to continue at the top of page 271. The top of page 271. It reads, "Oh, give me plenty, the blood of the covenant, and the devil may have the water wherein, quote, Christ is the end of the law to them that believe, end quote. But JC is the other end of the law to them that understand." Oh, let me see. Did y'all get that? Did y'all get that? Let me read it again. "Oh, give me plenty of blood of the covenant." Now, we know that the blood, of the covenant is grape juice, right? The blood of the covenant is the blood of grapes that will be used to make wine. "Oh, give me plenty of blood of the covenant." That's the blood of grapes in the autumn equinox, the vintage. When's the last day to gather grapes for the vintage? September 29th, St. Michaelmas Day. All right. "And the devil may have the water wherein, quote, Christ is the end of the law to them that believe." Anybody know what that means? Christ is the end of the law to them that believe, end quote. But the deity whose name is spelled Jesus is the other end of the law to them that understand. I'm going to let y'all marinate on that. Quote, I know in whom I have believed, end quote, says the old wag, and am persuaded that he is able to keep that which I have committed unto him against that day, in whom he believeth. That's a question. The S-U-N, Son. What had he committed to him? That's a question. The seed sown in the earth. Against what day? Why the day of judgment? When the S-U-N, Sun, in the scales of September shall weigh out, quote, to every man according to his work, and whatsoever a man have sown, that he shall also reap, end quote. Did y'all get that? Did y'all get that? Now, this is not the doctrine. This is not the theology. This is the astronomical meaning of the verse. Let's read it again. I hope, well, I'm sure most of you probably already got it, but let's read it again. Quote, I'm going to start reading here. Quote, I know in whom I have believed, end quote, says the old wag, and am persuaded that he is able to keep that which I have committed unto him against that day, in whom he have believed. The answer, he believed in the S-U-N, Son, the S-U-N, Son. What had he committed to him? The answer, the seed sown in the earth. In whom had he believed? Well, he believed in the S-U-N, Son. What had he committed to him? The answer is the seed. The seed sown in the earth. When was the seed sown? Let me go back. It's better if I show you the graphic. It's better to show you the graphic. It's better to show the graphic. All right, let's go back and take a look at the graphic. Let's go back and look at the graphic. All right. In whom had he believed? He believed in the Son, y'all. Here's the Son. In whom have he believed? He believed in the Son, the S-U-N. This is the astronomical meaning, not the theological, not the doctrine. In whom had he believed? Answer, the Son. He believed in the Son, S-U-N. What had he committed to him? The answer, the seed sown in the earth. When is the seed sown? The covenant of labor, the vernal equinox. You sow seed, right? What had he committed to him? The seed sown in the earth, beginning from the vernal equinox, the spring equinox. Against what day? That's the first question. Why? The answer is why? The day of judgment. The day of judgment. Now, what's the day of judgment? When the sun, S-U-N, in the scales of September, now we're in the autumn equinox, when the sun, S-U-N, in the scales of September shall weigh out, quote, to every man his work. The covenant of labor, you reap whatever you sow, that you shall reap. You sow your seed, or maybe you didn't sow your seed. You sowed seed and you messed around and fooled around, right? And now you get to the harvest, the autumn equinox, and guess what? Guess what? It reads, when the S-U-N sun in the scales of September shall weigh out, quote, to every man according to his work, and whatsoever a man hath sown, that he shall also reap. If you didn't do any work, if you did minimum work, your harvest is going to be minimal to nothing. You reap what you sow. That's a concrete statement. You harvest whatever seed you sown. Y'all got that? Concretely, In theology, they teach you that the abstract, you reap what you sow, right? Here it's literal. You reap what you sow. You reap in the harvest whatever you sowed in March all the way through the summer. Okay, if you were lazy about it or if you were broke, whatever, you're going to have a poor harvest. If you were working hard and you sowed a lot of seed and you did everything right, okay, you're going to have a bountiful harvest. Okay, so now let's continue reading. Look then at the Masonic ark. Its pillars are faith and charity. Its keystone is hope. The husbandman must sow in faith, live in hope, and reap in charity. So what is the Masonic ark? What is the Masonic ark? Let's visualize it. Well, here we see the equinoctial, or the equinoctial line, right? So everything above this orange line, this is the ark, right? This is the ark. This is the celestial ark. Everybody see it? From Boaz, the pillar Boaz, in the vernal equinox, going up, following the celestial equator, going to the pillar that is called Jachin. So this is the celestial ark. Everybody got that? That's the celestial ark. What are they calling it? They're calling it the Masonic ark. Okay, so maybe they'll call it the royal ark or the Masonic ark or the celestial ark. This is what it is. So it's everything above these 2 points, right? So below it, everything is dark and gloomy, right? Dark and gloomy habitat. Everything above. Now, why is it above? Because the sun here would be what? At its highest point in the sky, which is the zenith. So that's above. So as above, so below, right? All right. So this is the celestial ark or the Masonic ark. That's what the author is talking about there. Look then at the Masonic ark, its pillars, these are the pillars, Boaz and Jachin. Its pillars are faith and charity. All right, so we should know then what? We already know this. We don't even have to read. The pillar of faith is Boaz. Why? Because you got to do all of this work, right? You got to do all of the work, and you're not going to get a harvest until several months later. Maybe it's not going to rain. Maybe you're not going to have enough seed. Maybe your equipment is going to break. You don't know what's going to happen. So you're working on faith. And if you're the apprentice, if you're an apprentice, right, and entering apprentice, you're not getting paid. Remember, we read that earlier, that they would get paid, the entering apprentice would get paid at completion of the project, not on a daily basis. Y'all got it? So the covenant of labor, this is faith. And then the covenant of charity, without even reading it, we should know that this is Jachin, the pillar Jachin. Why? Why? Because in autumn, you get your harvest. You got a lot, right? Because you should have done a lot of work and, put the effort in. Now you get this great harvest, and now you can be charitable. You can share. You can share your harvest. You can give somebody some wine, give them some tomatoes or whatever. But this is what it appears to me. But let's continue. The keystone is hope. The keystone is hope. The husbandman must sow in faith. Who's the husbandman? The man working the farm, the entered apprentice, right? The farm hands. The husbandman must sow in faith, live in hope, and reap in charity. Y'all got that? He sows in faith. He don't know what's going to happen, but he's hoping everything is going to go well. And he's hoping for a great harvest. So the keystone is hope. Now let's continue. Let's go back. Let me see if let me just stay here. And why are those who cultivate the earth always called husbandmen? Because in allegorical language, they are married to the Virgin of August. Y'all got that? These farmhands are called husbandmen because they're married to Virgo, the constellation Virgo. And why are those who cultivate the earth always called husbandmen? Because in allegorical language, they are married to the Virgin of August, to whom they look continually that she shall bring forth their children. Of course, the children would be the bountiful harvest, right? Faith is spring. Hope is summer. Charity is autumn. Spring is the covenant of works, because faith and works must come together. Again, faith is spring. Hope is summer. Charity is autumn. Spring is the covenant of works because faith and works must come together. Autumn is the covenant of grace because then the works and husbandry are over, and a man has to enjoy the free gift of the sun's, S-U-N, bounty. The free gift of the sun, S-U-N's bounty. It was free. He didn't have to pay for the sun. The husbandman, the farm worker, does not have to pay for the sun. It's a free gift. The sun is the free gift, and it is the sun. It is the sun that makes all of this stuff happen, right? This is what the author is telling us. Let's continue. Let's continue. Then, what blessings, this is a citation, a quotation rather. Then, quote, what blessings his free bounty gives. Let us not cast away, for capital G-O-D is paid when man receives. To enjoy is to obey. All right. So let's see. We still got 1.5 pages, y'all. So let's pick this up tomorrow. I hope y'all enjoyed it. I really hope y'all enjoyed it. Roderick's point of view writes, sounds like those ends are equinox. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And what do y'all think about the presentation today? Give me some honest feedback, if y'all will, in the comment section. Was it interesting? Was it difficult to understand? Was it boring? Was it offensive? I noticed that our viewers kept going up and down. Was this easy to understand, hard to understand, boring? Like, how did you guys, how was it received? Did it seem, well, what's your assessment of the information? If y'all would be so kind to let me know. I'm going to watch the comment section. Roger's point of view writes, it's interesting. Okay, thank you, Roger's point of view. I'm wondering why the viewers keep going up and down. I don't know if people are leaving, if they're bored, if they're offended, or what. If they're spooked out. Anybody have any ideas what's happening? Anybody has their finger on the people's pulse, how they might be accepting or let me see, Roderick point of view writes, I learned different nuggets. Yeah, me too, Roderick. Actually, every time I go through this, I see something that I never thought about, which is why I like this author. I don't agree with everything he says. And in fact, I think we should have a call-in session about this topic because I see a lot of holes. Let me see. Gary Tucker writes, the author tied things together nicely. Yeah, he did, didn't he? He did. I see a lot of holes in his argument in this chapter. I haven't mentioned them, but I was thinking we should do a call-in show on this because he made some real big claims. And I would like to know what the scholars in the audience opinions are about it. And if you all see the same holes that I see. But I saw a lot of holes in his argument. But I know he only has so many pages to write, but I'm assuming he wrote his best stuff. I'm assuming he put his best stuff. But I'll just say one thing. Let me see. Well, I don't know let me see. Let me know if y'all want to do, let's see. Gary Tucker writes, I'd like to participate in a call-in. Excellent, excellent. Yeah, let's do a call-in. Anybody else want to do a call-in? Definitely, Gary Tucker. Anybody else want to do a call-in? Because he makes his strongest claim when he says that both the Old and the New Testament are hoaxes, right? Fairy tales. Now we've read through the book all the way until now. Let's see. Roderick's point of view writes, people are looking for easy answers and they're looking for direct answers, and this has them, but in a roundabout way. Currently, there are 3 in the chat. Yeah. I'm starting to think people don't want things that make them have to think. Maybe that's what it is, or maybe they're just looking for more Christianity. I have no idea. I have no idea. But there was someone who said, maybe it was Henry Ford. He said, the hardest thing, I don't remember the exact quote, but it was something like, the hardest thing to do is think, or the hardest thing for most people to do is think, because they don't want to think. Okay, so let's see. Roderick, you want to do a call in? Or what do y'all want to do? Let's say after we finish this chapter, and then everybody can have a chance to study up a little bit if y'all want. If not, we can just do it. Okay, so Roderick writes at work and then allow. Okay, so Roderick can't participate in the call in. But Gary Tucker, we can still do a call in. We can still do a call in. All right, so let's stop right here. We're 2 hours into it. I was trying to keep it to only 1.5 hours so the videos would be more easy to watch. I don't remember how many hours of content on this topic we have already, but it's got to be significant. I don't know if people can make it through it. If they're interested, they can make it through it, right? If they're interested. So let me do this housekeeping, y'all. Okay, so Shalawama, everyone, Islam to all the Moors. If you like the presentation, if you like my presenting style, if you like the way I teach, or if you just like me, or if you just want to know more about your ancient language, your heritage, consider subscribing to 101 Ancient Ibaryath. This is a streaming online course. You'll learn grammar. You'll learn everything about our pictographs that you're looking at right now. You'll learn grammar rules, and you'll learn how to do or perform Ibaryath word studies, which will allow you or empower you to unlock hidden treasures locked inside of every pictograph and every Ibaryath word, and also verses. These are meanings that are not in lexicons. So you'll learn the skills to do that, and you'll get 225 words in your vocabulary. You're going to learn a tremendous amount in this comprehensive and intensive home study course. It's only $10 per month. It's basically, or I should say, almost free. Market value of this course is easily $10,000, but we keep it almost free, in hopes that all of our people, no matter what nation, no matter what landmass you're on, no matter the value of your money, you'll still be able to afford to subscribe and reclaim your heritage. Our language, Ancient Ibaryath, is part of our heritage, and it will help you. It will help you break the God spell. It'll help you to return to the Most High greatly. So, with that said, I'm going to say, oh, I need to do one more, y'all. So, thanks to everyone who's already subscribed to the 101 Ancient Ibaryath course. And then also pick up the 911 Ibaryath Rescue book. This also has all of the pictographs, but of course, the course has much more information than this book has. This is a complement to the 101 Ancient Ibaryath course, okay? Make sure you get the international edition. This is less expensive than the one that's full color. This one is black and white, okay? So if you want to support us, you can buy our literature, this book, 911 Ibaryath Rescue. You can also, again, subscribe to the 101 Ancient Ibaryath course. You can come to 2 free classes on Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can come 2 times for free. And then we have 7 books listed in the description area of this video that you can order if you want to support us by buying our products, our books, okay? So you'll find the links to everything in the description area. Now, this book that you're looking at right now, this is another book that I would like for everybody to buy this book. This is Animals in the Bible. Okay, this is going to give you the Ibaryath name, the ancient Ibaryath name, the pronunciation of all of the animals in the Bible. This is a full color, 4-color, glossy print. You see that it's almost free. There's nothing available that compares to this book, y'all. Nothing available that compares to it. Now, again, this is Ibaryath. This is not biblical Hebrew, and it is not modern Hebrew, and it is not something that was just thrown together. Okay, this is a very professionally put together publication. I wish I could show y'all inside of it, but they don't have, last time I checked, you couldn't see anything. So yeah, see, so you really can't see inside of it. They're not showing any of the inside pages. Y'all see? So they're not showing any of the inside, but this is our script. This is Ibaryath, okay? So you see the Ibaryath words, you see how to pronounce them, and you see the English below. But they don't show any of the pages. Y'all see that? They don't show inside. But you can see some of the images here, right? These are beautiful images. Okay. All right. Anyway, so the links to 7 of our books are in the description area of this video. So support us if your heart motivates you to and you can afford to. We would appreciate that because it helps us greatly to keep doing what we're doing. And plus, it's going to help us to make our videos and live streams more professional because we've got to buy a lot of equipment and a lot of software. And there's a learning curve too. Also, y'all, I'm working on, I think I mentioned this before. I'm sure I mentioned it before. But one of the things I want to do is write an entire Torah, but do it all in Ibaryath, do it with the grammar and with the English renderings, not something that you buy like a license from some church and you change a few words and put your name on it. I'm not talking about something like that. I'm talking about rendering every word in English and removing all Jeremiah 8:8 occurrences right? Removing all of the lies, and then on top of that, or in addition to that, rendering the verses as they should be, as close to the Ibaryath meaning as possible in English. Okay, so we'll have our own. That's something that I want to do, and I want to start working on that. So I want to start raising money to support that project, because that's a big project. That's a really, really big project. So I'm working on a GoFundMe page to raise money for that. We need our own version of the scripture. We need our own version of the Torah so that we can stop using our enemies' books and stuff. So I hope y'all will support me on that product and that project. That's going to be a really, really, really big project. So it will, that's like an all day, everyday job to do that. And I'll need help. I'll need help to complete that. All right, y'all. So let's meet back together, same time, 9 o'clock. But tomorrow, I think we definitely can't go more than 1.5 hours tomorrow, because I'll be traveling. Okay. So we'll pick this up. And if y'all have any feedback you want to give me, put it in the chat so I can know what's happening. Other than that, thanks for spending your evening with me. And I hope that you guys learned and enjoyed. And I will see everyone tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Shalawama.